I'm tired of this, and I'm sick of the New World Order, and I'm sick of the criminals that run Washington. See, I'm sort of, and I tell you, it's because I'm not turning this desk over and I'm not smashing stuff, because that's what I really feel like doing. But instead of doing that, we need to take a deep breath and just pray to God to cause a global awakening, which is starting to happen, and that we just have peace. And I know things aren't going to be perfect, and we know what Revelation looks like, and they had a big poll out this week. I didn't get to it yesterday, where upwards of half of Americans think we're in the end times. Well, Nineveh was about to be destroyed, but God sent Jonah, and Nineveh was given a 100-year reprieve because they repented. And so God has foreordained, God has set things up that are going to happen. But God also lets us choose our own adventure. You know those little books for teenagers where they have 3 or 4 different endings, and you choose your adventure by what page you turn to? And so it's set what's going to happen studying history, but it's also up to our will and what we do. God gives us options. And I can tell you at a gut level, a spiritual level, not just an intellectual level, not just a military level, but at a gut level, I can tell you this situation with Russia, and I don't think you need me to tell you this, is very dangerous and is ticking towards thermonuclear Armageddon. And God said next time he'd destroy much of the earth, not with water, but with fire. And so that's where we are. And it's what you expect to happen when they have drag queen story time at the White House. That's a nice Sodom and Gomorrah signpost, or like a light on the oven telling you that, the turkey's done. And of course, the drag queen people that were at the White House are on record. There's an article on Infowars.com. I'm not going to quote it here on air, talking about sex with children. Of course, that's what goes on at the White House. And you got mass smuggling going on by Biden. And now he's completely dissolving the border, getting rid of Title 42. We are a cursed nation. Let's just admit it. We turned away from God, and look where we are now. So it's a bunch of maniacs that want our children. Now, I said I'd get to this first, so let's play these clips. One is DeSantis. One is a leading British MP. And then another we need to get to is also very, very critical to break down, and that's Dr. Peter McCullough. So let's just play clip 15, 5, and 7 back to back. Here they are.
A group based out of the UK, but represents 70 grassroots organizations all over the world. Dr. Malhotra is one of the leaders of this group. The World Council for Health, on June 11, 2022, issued a pharmacovigilance report. They analyzed all the vaccines, 39 safety systems, 4 big ones in the world, and they're all consistent. There is an alarming signal of excess death after taking the vaccine. An alarming signal. Looking backwards, these vaccines should have come off the market in early January of 2021 for excess mortality. People dying early after the vaccines, now dying late after the vaccines. And this report is comprehensive. It's about 20 pages long. And I encourage anybody, if they're saying, listen, show me some evidence that the vaccines are harmful. Don't do it on your own. Just go to the World Council for Health. This is a wonderful synthesis because it's all over the world. And I can tell you, in total, many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, and potentially millions of people have lost their lives with the vaccine. This will go down as the biggest biological, pharmaceutical safety disaster in the history of mankind. By a mile. This will go down worse than most wars in terms of mortality.
Part of this issue and other issues with COVID, goes back to an attempt to enforce one acceptable narrative on all these issues. And, you saw it with the censorship of Dr. Bhattacharya with Twitter. You also saw it with Dr. Fauci and some of these people saying that they needed to go after these people who wrote the Great Barrington Declaration. They wanted to not contest the ideas in that, they basically wanted to smear them because they didn't want to have any criticism of their lockdown policies. And so part of the reason I think it's been a bad response is because from the very beginning you had a lot of arrogance that it's our way or the highway, and anyone that offers any type of a dissenting opinion. And they were censoring from day one. People that would write anti-lockdown things in March of 2020, April 2020, some of those would get taken down off some of these big tech platforms. And so we saw that over and over again. And I think that ultimately, your policies or your positions or your analysis of this medical science should stand on its own. And if it's not able to accept criticism, if you can't defend the policy against valid criticism, then maybe you need to be looking in the mirror. But that's not what these elites wanted to do. They wanted to just cocoon themselves from any criticism and to try to denigrate anybody that had a different way of thinking. So I think with the Twitter, what Elon Musk is doing, I think there's going to be a lot more that comes out with that, and I think that that's very important. But I think it's also important to say, Twitter is not even close to most of the censorship what was going on. They're a much smaller company than like a Google or YouTube or some of these others, and I guarantee you everything that was going on in Twitter is going on in these others, if not even more so. And we got a sense of that when they went after us for having the opposing the masks, having the experts oppose the masks for these young kids.
That's right. Huge organized government corporate combine censoring, persecuting, attacking, and calling for our arrest when we question things. Remember, and wanting to arrest anti-vaxxers and all the rest of it. So Dr. McCullough exposed what's going on. Governor DeSantis exposed what goes on. The member of Parliament in the UK, Andrew Bridgen, also has been talking about what whistleblowers are telling him. But we've known this for years and years. You heard the key that DeSantis laid out there. He said day one they were suppressing everybody because they knew what they were doing. And that's why this is life and death. We're going to be in a permanent biomedical tyranny where they kill us with shots and where it's normalized that people just die everywhere and we just get used to it. And then everybody just goes along with it because no one wants to admit it's happening. Mass Stockholm Syndrome, that's their attempted goal. Remember, I met with a top globalist once. I was on an airplane with him for 3 hours flying to New York. And like, I recognize you. You're the head of the major bank. Yeah. He said, this is off record, Alex? I'll tell you. And he just said, they're going to adapt to being slaves. You don't get it. You think they're going to adapt and overcome like you do? No. You should join us because you overcome. They don't overcome. They're going to submit to whatever we do. Well, no, we're not. No, we're not. And I'm not signing on to mass murder. As if anybody's going to be safe in this future system with you people. So we'll end the clip with a member of Parliament and then start the second hour with our special guest that you, believe me, do not want to miss what's coming up in the next hour. Go ahead and play this clip.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it's also been brought to my attention by a whistleblower from a very reliable source that one of these institutions is covering up clear data that reveals the mRNA vaccine increases inflammation of the heart arteries. They are covering this up in fear that they may lose funding from the pharmaceutical industry. The lead of that cardiology research department has a prominent leadership role with the British Heart Foundation. And I'm very disappointed to say that he has sent out non-disclosure agreements to his research team to ensure that this important data never sees the light of day. This, Madam Deputy Speaker, is an absolute disgrace.
Well, the Pentagon has publicly greenlit the cruise missile attacks inside Russia that have been going on for a week and a half.
We can see a Russian tank, we can see a Russian APC, we can see a Russian missile get launched, and that information gets fed to the Ukrainians, and they could actually act on it almost immediately, which is something I think the Russians never contemplated.
Well, if Putin didn't contemplate that, his intelligence services didn't contemplate that, they're idiots. Because I knew it, and I told you that. Oh, the spin is when the Russians fire a missile, we give them a lifetime. Like when Ukraine fired those missiles into Poland to blame it on Putin and try to get a nuclear war going a month ago.
Російські ракети ударили по Польщі, по території нашої дружньої країни.
This is a very dramatic potential escalation, obviously, because Poland is a NATO country. There were ongoing cruise missile attacks being carried out in the west of Ukraine, close to Poland's border, at the time that these projectiles landed on Polish territory. It is conceivable that they are Russian missiles.
I'm not pro-Russia. I'm pro-non-nuclear war.
Shall we play a game?
How about